Alright guys, if you found this review, it's because you're looking for a watch that you can literally go anywhere with. If you like to play in the sand, no problem. If you like to play in the water, no problem. Do you like to play in the salt water? No problem. You want to go into the snow, the woods, the urban environment, wherever you want to go, this watch is going to go with you and perform flawlessly. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the GWG-1000. The G-Shock of G-Shocks, in my opinion. Now, granted, it says G-Shock at the top, but it is actually a Master of G series. This is the top of the line that you can get. This is the MUDMASTER. There is a less expensive MUDMASTER that falls underneath this one, which is a GG-1000. And it'll be, roughly or even a little bit below half the price. It misses a lot of key features that this watch has, and the big key features that made me buy this. This is by far the most expensive thing I've ever put on my wrist. And in doing so, it's still a fraction of the price of, say, a Omega or a Rolex. And you could offer me either one of those watches, and I'd tell you to take a hike. Every time I look down at my wrist with this watch, I smile. And that's a really unique experience to have. Because, I mean, as guys, we probably check our watches between 100 or 300 times a day. I mean, and that's probably dependent upon who you are. But just think about that. Anytime you turn your wrist over, you smile. You can't really put a price on that. But I guarantee you it's not the price of a Rolex. It's the greatest watch I've ever had. I bought this for myself for Christmas, and may actually be the greatest expenditure I've ever done for myself. I didn't think that I'd ever do something like this for myself. And I can't keep smiling, and I can't tell you how proud I was that I spent that money for this watch. It's just incredible. And what makes it incredible? Well, it's got a feature list longer than my arm, and I actually have my list over here that we're going to go through here in a minute. This is probably going to be a slightly longer watch review because I'm going to be pimping it so hard because I love it. But I don't want it to be one of those videos that you come in, you get 5 minutes of a overview, and then someone, pimps out. Not the way that I operate. Who is this really designed for? Well, that's easy. It's designed for everyone. What does it excel at? For what kind of job environment does it excel at? Anything military. Honest to God, anything military. I would be slightly... I'd be a little bit more hesitant to call it an aviator's watch because, I mean, there are far better watches designed specifically to deal with that environment. But this does have an altimeter on it that is slightly accurate to within about 65 to 70 feet. Not bad, but there are a couple of reviews out there if you take a look of people putting these next to altimeters in their planes if they've got the luck or the skill to actually be up that high. I tend to be more of a swampy, woodsy ground dweller that actually has a PADI certification, so I love to dive as well. And trust me, this watch can go down and do it. Like it's rated for 200 meters, which 660 feet. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at. But to be honest, if I'm going down below 100 feet, I'm going to have a real dive computer with me that's going to give me my well time, that's going to give me the timers that I need to decompress at certain levels whenever I'm coming back up. I usually like to stay within the 60-foot range. That's just where I have the most fun. And this watch will just smack the crap out of that depth all day long. Just insane. And that's what I love about it. It's a MUDMASTER. It kind of gives you that flavor, straight away with its name, that, it's going to be in an environment that's a little dirtier than most watches get to go in. And I like that. I like a watch that lets you feel that you can get filthy with it, get down and do some real man crap with it. So, let's take a couple of looks at this. First of all, it's a big watch. No joke, it's a little big, and I couldn't be happier about that. I mean, it makes a statement no matter where I go. I often nowadays will, because I have a watch that I absolutely adore like this, I do find myself checking guys' wrist. Like if I go to a restaurant or a bar or something along those lines, you know, I never noticed it before, but you know, you notice someone's watch whenever they're sitting there hoisting their beer or reaching for the peanuts. And it tells you a lot about the person that's wearing it. And as a psychoanalysis tool, I mean, that's fabulous to actually pick somebody apart from across the room and kind of know what they're about before you ever approach them. So I'll let you make the decisions as to what this watch says about me or yourself, and that's part of the fun. All right, so let me turn this thing to the side here and show you this. I mean, it's a big boy. It's a big old bastard of a watch. You can see the sensor spot over here. You can see the buttons here that are serrated so you can get in there. Like, oh, I love these buttons. They feel so good. There's nothing cheap feeling about this watch at all. Everything feels like $1 million, and you won't even pay anywhere near that. You'll also notice, because it is such a large watch, that Casio have put these little rounded out sections here on the side that no matter what kind of wrist you have, it's going to just seat and be comfortable. As you can see, my wrists aren't the biggest things in the world, but I mean, this thing just holds onto it like it was supposed to be there. It's like this watch was made for me. Like someone, and this is the JDM version as well. It came straight out of Japan, and in doing so, comes with a little bit better packaging. If you have a choice between, you know, like an American version, and trust me, they're not made in America. If you get a chance, make sure it's a JDM, a Japanese domestic market, both for collection value, and it just has such a better display case, and I might show that off here at the end of the video. But let's go through it a little bit more. A lot of people, the first thing that they'll do whenever they have a really nice watch is they'll take the bands off. You will not be doing that with this watch. I'm sorry, you can see a little bit of the scratching there. Do believe that I have been using this watch since Christmas, so it's had 6 months of really good field use. I don't baby this watch, but I don't beat it to death either. And trust me, she puts up with anything you can throw at her. So you'll see a couple of little scratches here on the side that gives you, you know, a little bit of information about the watch. You know, water resistant to 20 bars. Oop, too much light there. There we go. There we go. You can see a little bit. Really good keepers on this thing. I mean, really good metal to hold this in the back. When this thing gets on your wrist, I mean, it doesn't joke. It doesn't come off. I've seen quite a few reviews of G-Shocks that I don't have, or other Casio watches that struggle to actually keep the band down whenever you strap it up. There are fabulous reviews from Nut and Fancy. If you get a chance, go and check out his website. He's one of the ones that turned me on to the joys and beauty of, you know, certain G-Shocks, but not this one. This one I found on my own after doing a ton of research to try to find a watch that I just, you know, that absolutely spoke to me. But yeah, if you look at some of those reviews as well, like, you'll notice that it's a little tougher in this area to keep the band down. It just slides completely off. This one's actually got a notched, raised section right here that you can see against that green down at the bottom right there. See that? Right there. I have never had this fly off my wrist. I have never had this come off. Like, it just holds. I don't know what to tell you about it. I don't know if it's like a slight bit of magic that the watch possesses, or, you know, if it just loves me and doesn't want to go anywhere. But I've never had a problem with this actually keeping. I mean, you get what you pay for. This thing's quality in every sense of the word. But back to the band itself, I have no problem with it. I have no want whatsoever, nor do I think you can really do anything else with it besides buy another band that looks like this, you know, from eBay or Casio Direct. It's comfortable. It's comfortable, and I trust it implicitly. You'll notice after 6 months of wear that, you know, it's not stiff. It doesn't crack. It's not a cheap-ass band. I mean, Casio did their work with this. They really knew what they were doing with this watch. And, I mean, why would you want to change the band? I mean, look how cool this is. I mean, like, that's just the military green on it. I mean, if it doesn't turn you on, you shouldn't have the watch. Like, if a watch doesn't, like, excite you when you look at it, you shouldn't have it. Sell it to somebody that it actually would. Now then, you'll notice that it's got a couple of really interesting little words on the side, like comp and alti and, triple sensor, G-Shock, all those kinds of things. It's because it's loaded with functions. I mean, if I pull the manual out later, I mean, it comes this thick. Now, granted, because it's a JDM, it's all in Japanese, and I have no idea what they're saying. But luckily, G-Shock has, a ton of resources that you can go on there, and it's always going to be in English. But for the most part, this is a set it and forget it kind of a watch. I may or may not have mentioned earlier that it's solar powered. I can't say enough about a solar powered watch. You'll catch a couple of guys that'll talk about solar power, and they're like, oh, if it's in the dark for 6 months, it's going to have a problem. Okay, if the watch is in a box for 6 months, it's because you don't enjoy wearing the watch, and you've got other issues. Secondly, they're like, oh, maybe you should have like an automatic, as long as you can move your wrist or the watch can move itself. I mean, it's going to charge. Well, that's wonderful too. Seiko 5 has a wonderful rendition of a watch that's automatic, and it's $63 on Amazon right now. And I'll actually be picking one of those up with the next paycheck or so, whenever I can pull a little bit more money away from the wife and we're not using it for the house or anything else. But I digress. I will be picking up a Seiko 5 because of that movement, because I think it's gorgeous to look at. Would I put this up against any Seiko and say, hey, give me the Seiko over this? Hell no. Hell no, I wouldn't. But I still like Seiko to be, and you know what, we can get off Seiko for a second. But the biggest thing that I talk about is that the solar power on it is going to work. You give it a good full charge in the sun, you're going to get months out of this watch. And if the sun dies, someone's going to be like, oh, well, see, I told you, now that the sun's gone, you need an automatic watch. If the sun burns out and we don't have the sun anymore, we've got bigger freaking problems. So, you know what, let me get off the soapbox on that one. Anyway, solar powered, just get it out in the sun. You're not going to have to worry about the battery. I have yet to find someone saying that their battery died on them, in under 5 years or something like that. I haven't even found anyone that says that the battery has died on one of these yet. I may not be digging deep enough into the forums, but I honestly don't see that happening unless you had a defective watch from the factory, which even then I haven't seen. These are handmade in Japan in the Casio, I almost want to call it the compound, but it's not really the same, but the factory sounds a little dirty to me. But I mean, they're hand precision watches. Like, there's an entire section that they put together, the Master of G series, like that's away from the other side of the factory. I mean, this is the Ferrari. Well, you know what? That's terrible. Let me use a car that's actually useful. This is, like a Tiger tank. Nope, even that's not even proper, because Tiger tanks had, problems with their engines and they were too heavy. This one is just, I'm trying to think of the most bulletproof thing that I can possibly think of. You know what, we'll come back to that. Forgive me for getting on that soapbox too. It's bulletproof. These things do not joke around. Now, you'll notice that around the watch, and of course if you've come to check out this review, you want to see what it can do. I'm not going to do like a tutorial on how to program it, on how to do any of that crap. I'm here just to tell you what's awesome about this watch and to give you a quick little rundown of it. You'll notice that it has a negative display at the bottom, which I have a couple of watches that have negative displays. Case in point, and I'll put this on the table, later on. This is a ProTrack, from Casio that I haven't. You can tell that I've had it on the side of the table here. I haven't cleaned it up as much as I have this one, because I had to knock, all the man grease out of it that I go to work with every day and make sure it's nice and pretty for you guys. And she does shine up nice. But anyway, negative displays a lot of people will gripe about because they're harder to read. And to an extent, I agree. It's one of the many reasons that I went looking for another watch, because this used to be my daily driver. And I went and found this one just because I like the analog display on it. And I just thought that's just such a classic, awesome look. But this one is still a monster of a watch, and we'll review that in a later video. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there about the negative display. All right. But anyway, really, really, really awesome watch to look at every day. hands are easily readable. There's no garbage around the sides of the dial, trying to confuse you with military time or any of that crap. I mean, honestly, if you wanted to do military time, you could come over here and, I mean, you could throw it down on the bottom. If you're one of those people, I pretend, I kind of pretend that that's not down there, and I take pride, as most people would if they know how to, calculate the time to military time, and you just do it off the fly. But if you want an easier way to do that, if you're just getting into the military or law enforcement or something like that, and they're using military time, it's a great way to have it down there just to cheat. I digress. We'll move on. I prefer to have my day, my date and month, whatever. No, excuse me. I had to clear my throat for a second. So moving on, you'll notice that over here it says borrow, temp, and underneath it a little bit you can see that it's got RC, RT, a couple other things, ST down there for stopwatch, and we're about to go through those and just give you a quick little taste. So let's take a look at the barometer. Awesome little feature that I tend to use every day with this watch. Weather has been so wild here in Texas lately that I actually do like to read the signs and whatnot to see if we've got another thunderstorm coming in. As many of you will probably remember, the big, huge flood that came through after Harvey. It's unfortunately, Houston has kind of a panic attack syndrome whenever it starts to rain now, because so many people lost their houses. So if you're one of those folks that you are paranoid about weather, especially rain, I highly suggest picking up a watch like this. I mean, the barometer is dead on. You can even set the functions to warn you with an alarm if the barometer starts to pick up the fact that it's going to get really nasty really fast. I mean, if you've got a low pressure system that's coming in, this thing will tell you. Like, you can get inside your tent, inside your house, inside your car, wherever you want to be to get away from that nasty ass weather. So I can't say enough about the barometer. I never thought that I would use one on a watch, but I actually do. And I do have a job that puts me out in the field quite a bit, and I like to know these things. Let's see here. Now let's move on to the temperature. And you'll notice that it swings everything aside so you can see it directly down at the bottom. And it says 84.6, and that's more than likely because I've been holding it through this interview and warming it up from the back. When it's on my wrist, it'll usually say something along the lines of, 89, 90 degrees, give or take. The temperature function is a fun party trick on it, but honest to God, if you're going to be out, in the woods or something like that, you're going to have to take the watch off, you're going to have to let it acclimate to the outside temperature, and then it'll give you a pure reading, which it will. Or you can just be like me and, hold on just a second as I go and get my other watch, as I back away and come back to here. Like, if you're going to go out into the field, just carry a secondary watch with you like I do. This is another Casio, and I'll probably put this one in another review as well. But, this one has a temperature gauge on it. And this one will hang off of my backpack or hang off my guideline. I might put this, inside the tent or, on the side of the Harley, whatever I need to really tell me what's going on. I like having redundancies in all of my EDC gear, but that's neither here nor there, and we'll discuss that at a later time. Anyway, back to this watch. So as far as the temperature setting, I mean, it's fun. You can make it extremely accurate if you take it off your wrist and let it acclimate for about 15 minutes. It's a fun party trick. I don't use it all that often, but maybe you will. Let's move on. Recall. Okay, are you going up and down a mountain? This will record the altitude that you were at, and you can recall it, which is why it's called a recall. I have yet to use this. When I go to Colorado later on, I probably will, just to give it a quick little test, and I'll be taking a couple of other items with me if I ever go back out to Colorado and to a specific mountain that I've been up before. But, I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory. But as you can see, I'm not really using any elevation because Texas is flatter than hell, and, unless I'm going down to the beach, I think I'm only going down like 50 feet, so not that big of a damn deal. Alright, stopwatch. Again, self-explanatory. Never use it. Never use it. Haven't had a need to use it. I'm not out on the field. I'm not trying to, run myself or anything like that. Again, personal preference on that. You guys might use it all the freaking time. And that's cool. I mean, that's one of the features of this watch that, you can get turned on by. But a stopwatch is, it's a stopwatch. You've seen one. It runs smooth, but I just don't use it very often. Timer. Again, self-explanatory. Throw something in the oven, put it down for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20, whatever you got. You can do this all day long. It's a timer. Meh. Let's see. Alarm. Again, I don't really use alarms on a watch because I like to stay quiet in the woods as much as I can, or if I'm trying to achieve a situation to where I can't be seen, like if I'm going into a house to sweep it out or something along those lines. I'm not a big fan of having people hear an alarm go off if I'm trying to come up stealth, you know what I'm saying? So, of course you can throw your alarms on there, and it's got, multitudes. I'll have to look over the list here in a minute whenever we get really into this thing, and I'll tell you how many times a day it can really do it, because the list of features on this watch are longer than my arm. Let's see, 5 daily alarms. I just pulled it up real quick. 5 daily alarms, 4 one-time and 1 snooze alarm. I don't know why you'd need, 5 alarms a day, but you do you, boo. Let's see, world time. Now this is where the watch really starts to get fun. As you can see down at the bottom, 1202, pulling the same out at the top, just excellent stuff. Like if you want to do each time zone that you want to go into, if you want to do like a specific city, if you want to run into another country or something like that, there are ways to do that by pulling out the crown here, which is sealed, and we'll get to that in a minute, and twisting it either, left, right, however, you'll see a plus sign here and a negative sign here to show you, just to give you an indication as to which way you're moving around the dial. And if you get close enough to it, you'll see around the sides here that it's got the names of cities that you can point at. For my time zone, I always use Chicago, which always irritates me because I wish they would just go ahead and say, like, why can't they put Houston in that list? Anywho, it doesn't really matter, and it's not like I live in Houston proper. I live out in the suburbs. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. Now this is the atomic time. This tells me when the clock synced up to the fort in Colorado. Oh Lord, and I'll remember the name here in a second. But anyway, it's out of Colorado that our automatic timing comes from here in America, and I've got a pretty good signal strength for that as well. So what it's telling me is at 12:03 on the 27th of this month. Is when this clock synced up to that timer in Colorado. And I don't ever have to keep, moving the dials forward because it's losing time or it's gaining time. None of that crap. This watch does it for me. And I can't put a price on that. That's so freaking slick. You want to go to another country, let's say you want to go to either, the UK, Germany, Japan, or China, you can do the exact same thing. Like, it will automatically sync up with that city. Well, I say that city, but that time zone if they've got, atomic timekeeping functions. And trust me, UK, Germany, Japan, and China, they most certainly do. So I like the fact that I can just go in, have it manually pick up that signal, and I don't have to fart with it anymore. Like, I'm a big convenience person. I don't want to be hassled with, like, tedious shit. Sorry about that, but that's just one of my pet peeves on that crap. I like something that can fend for itself. But anyway, we'll push it back to home time. There we go. Friday, 7/27, and obviously when I'm doing this review. Let's check the altimeter. Like, this is not going to be that impressive for where I am. Yeah, 30 feet. Woo! Boy, you can tell I am just above that seawater, boy. Like, so high. So high. Like I said, I haven't been up the mountain yet to give this a check, to really play with it, but I will at a later date, and I might do a follow-up video to this review as well. So go ahead and go back to home time. Now the one that tripped my best friend out, and understand that my friend loves watches about the same way that I do, yet he's a more corporate person. He works for a Fortune 500 company. He wears a suit to work every day. I wear a uniform and a gun. Like, let's just be real. So he and I have slightly different taste in watches. He's a gigantic Seiko fan. I think he has 4 or 5 of them. He sent me a picture of his box the other day, that displays all of his lovely little timepieces. And trust me, 2 or 3 of them, I absolutely drool over. I love one of his dive watches, and I love a couple of other ones that you can customize as well. His automatic movements are beautiful to watch. Wouldn't take a single damn one of them. If he offered me anything in that box, including a Rolex, I would not give up this watch. So when he sat down with me and I said, for the first time, I understand what you're talking about. I bought myself what I consider to be a very expensive watch, but well worth the money. He was thrilled to see it. And he took this thing out, and it was like a kid the first time he ever picked up a game console. He's like, holy crap, this thing is awesome. Like, I don't know what to think. Damn, this thing's just dope, like that. And I'm going through all of the functions with him. And it was one of those situations where, I was just like, okay, and, I'm feeling that vibe from him. We're talking about watches and stuff. I'm like, okay, show me the watch you're wearing. What are its features? And he's like, it tells time. And I'm like, oh, okay. What does the luminescence look like on it? Is it backlit? Does it have a light at all? And he's like, it tells time. I'm sorry, I just can't stand watches like that. Like, what is your functionality? Like, what do you do? I for the fact of just sitting there and being pretty, I can't stand that. Like, that's why I love my wife. She's gorgeous, but I mean, the wit on that woman can tear me down and make me laugh. And she's an absolute right. She comes with a ton of freaking features, and it's why I like her. If she were a basic ass bitch, I wouldn't be around it. I'll get off of that one, and we'll leave wives out of the situation for the moment. But I love mine. But anyway. The biggest party trick of this watch, in my opinion, is the compass. Now, you'll notice that the second hand is always going to point north, which you'll obviously see what my little desk here is like because we're, just hanging out. But, oh yeah, like, this is what just floored my buddy, that it can do this. How can you not act like a kid on Christmas when you see something like this? I mean, holy crap. Like, dude, like, so much awesome. So much awesome. Oh, I can't say enough about that. Yeah, if you tell me you can't use that in the field, you probably shouldn't be there, or you know how to tell time in a different way, which I do too, but I mean, come on, this is just freaking dope. Go back to home time. There we go. Now, what does this thing look like in the dark? Well, I've got the office pretty much darkened down except for the overhead light that you see right above me here. Right there. If you'll give me 5 seconds, I'll go and slam this thing off, and we'll take a look at the luminescence of it, which is fantastic. Hold on, guys. I'm coming. Give me a second. There we go. You can tell that I don't run multiple cameras at the time, but that's fine. So let's take a look at this. Boom. Boom. Look at that. Look at the awesomeness that is this luminescence. Now, granted, it's still a little light in here. I've got my computer running in the background because I'm running OBS to record this. But a lot of people will talk about the lume of a watch. Some people love to go with tritiums. Some people love what this is, where you can just hit it with some, good old-fashioned sunlight or a heavy light that you've got in your backpack or something like that, and it's going to work. A lot of people will complain that lume dies out, after 10, 15 minutes. If that's the case, you've got a crap-ass watch. This one is legible about 6 hours after I charge it. And that's a full charge in the face with a good light or whenever I'm going to sleep. This thing sits next to my bed on my nightstand constantly. I can always roll over and see what time it is. If I charged this thing at like 7 o'clock in the afternoon, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the lume is still good enough that I can read it. It's no joke. If you were curious as to what the light looks like on this bad mofo, dude, does that not just make you smile? Look at that LED whenever it comes up. Now, I've got mine to about 1 second, something like that. You can time this watch out to make it keep its light on for 3 seconds. I don't prefer that. If I'm in a situation where I'm trying not to be seen, I want it to be very, very, very quick and low. But, I mean, dude, it's It's unbelievable how good the lume is on this watch, and the light itself. I mean, you can't really see it from over here, but I'll put my hand up. I mean, it actually throws the light a little forward like a flashlight. Not a big function and not the reason that I bought the watch, but it is kind of nice that I can, you know, throw it out a little bit to see where I'm going. But in general, I would prefer the lume to tell me exactly what's going on. I really don't like throwing lights in the dark. Maybe it's just because I'm one of those people that I don't like being seen. But give me a second and I'll hit the lights again. Oh, up and down, up and down. Ooh. Camera's like, what the hell, dude? Anywho, moving on. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about this watch other than it's just freaking amazing. Now, let's talk about why it's actually called, you know, some of the functionality of the name itself for MUDMASTER. Now, you'll notice that here on the side, right there, you'll see a gasket. This crown actually screws out, screws down, and that is to keep sand or any of the really fine particles that you'll find in certain types of water out of the functions of this watch. Dude, it's so cool. It's so stinking cool that it can do that. And obviously red is dead, so you try to take out as much of the red as you can see without over-twisting this dial. And you can use this to set other features within the watch that I'm not going to get into. You just need to get the watch and actually play with it and have a good time. So, you know what? We haven't even checked the back of the watch. Let's do that real quick. Like if you want to see what the quality is that you're buying with this watch. And I'll do a quick check here on Amazon for a second, which is where I get all of my watches because they have free returns and they are pretty decent people whenever you want to deal with something. And you know, we're talking about a watch that's well over $500 that, you know, they won't ask you questions when you send it back. But I mean, take a look at that. I mean, that's I love the back of this watch. It's not exactly like one that you can see the inner workings of it or any of that kind of crap. Oh, I forgot to mention that it had sapphire glass. How did I not mention that on the front? Real quick about the sapphire glass on this. I work with a patrol dog every day. A big German Shepherd that I love to death like he's a little puppy. But the day that I got this, and I was happy to take it with me to work, yeah, when I pulled my boy out of the kennel, you know, the first thing that he notices is that Daddy's got something on his wrist, and he's like, "Oh my God, you know, what is that?" And I mean, he latched down on my hand just to, you know, waggle his tongue and, you know, try to see what was on my wrist. I mean, it was this big honking thing that he didn't understand. And this thing had no problem with his teeth going over the glass. It didn't depress it that bad. I mean, as you can see, there's like no scratch on it whatsoever. So I can attest that if a German Shepherd puts this in its mouth, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. I've never experienced sapphire glass until I had this watch. Holy crap, why don't you have sapphire on everything? And at this price point, it damn well better. But holy crap, do I like that. Getting a quick look at my camera here. I've been talking so much and recording in such high def that only got about 8% left on it. But so we'll start wrapping this up a little bit. But let's run over some of the features that I've got here just to give you a quick little look, you know, as to what we're doing from, you know, G-Shock. These are all the features that I'm going to try to run through real quick, just to give you a quick little overview. So I've already mentioned that it had, you know, the atomic timekeeping for the U.S., UK, Germany, Japan, and China. Receives time calibration radio signals which keep the displayed time accurate. No duh. It's got a manual receive function. If you don't want to let it do it automatically, you can force it to do so. I usually don't. It does it for me. It talks about the frequencies here. That, I mean, you know, US 60 hertz, UK 60 hertz, Germany 770, 77.5 hertz, Japan 40, you know, whatever. Tough solar we went over. Shock resistant. Obviously, it's a G-Shock. The insides of this watch are actually coated with a really specific gel around the sides that, like I said before, you can knock the absolute crap out of this watch, and I mean, she's going to tick. It's got tough movement, but it's actually designed to absorb, as it says, you know, on this side, vibe resist. You can let this thing rattle on the side of your Harley all day long, and she's going to tick for you. There's just no problem. Let's see. We went over the buttons. We went over vibration resist I just did with the alpha gel that it has in it. Tough movement, auto home position, 200 millimeter water resistant, flyback function. Let's see, altimeter, digital compass, barometer, thermometer, world time and 29 time zones. Yeah, 29 cities plus UTC. Daylight savings. Oh yeah, I have my DST set on this one to where I don't have to fool with that crap either. When daylight savings rolls around, boom, I'm good to go. It just does it automatically. It's like having no, I don't want to compare it to Alfred, but it's like having Batman on my wrist. Like it's going to get the job done, and I'm not going to have to fart with it. You can do the hourly time signals if you really want to have the beep every hour. Not really my thing. I don't like to let a whole lot of people know where I am. No, I think we pretty much covered everything. But the only thing that we haven't covered, though, is price. And with the last little remaining bit of my battery here, let me go on to Amazon real quick and show you as of today, 7/27 at, 12:15, what is this bad mofo going for? Because I have seen the prices, and you'll notice that with G-Shocks in particular on any site that you go to, that prices fluctuate. They're very fluid. If a lot of people really love what I'm showing right now and they run over and buy it, they're going to run out of stock and the price of the watch will go up. But let me see here. GWG-1000. GWG-1000. There we go. Let's see what the current price is right now. For the green version, which is what I have on the table for you right now, let's see what you can pick this thing up for. See all buying options. Not too bad, actually. Not too bad. You can see that, $527 you can get new and free shipping, right away by BS time, which is kind of silly to me, but, have at it. So, as of today, the price of this watch that you can pick up, from Amazon, right away is $527. If you go, and I have checked it before, if you go to Macy's or a department store or a watch store, the prices usually range between $750 and $850, which, why in God's name would you buy from one of those stores when you can get the option to both free return and cut $300 off of the price? I mean, why wouldn't you? But anyway, that'll be up to you. It's worth every single penny. I would have paid more for this watch. It's worth every bit of the, respective retail price that they say that they want to keep it at, for like $700, $750. It's worth every penny of that. But I highly encourage you to run out, grab one if they're in stock. They're absolutely fabulous watches, and I cannot say enough about them. And guys, thank you so much for stopping by to take a look at this review. I hope that watches turn you on the same way that they do me. You deserve something that every time you look at it, it makes you smile. Plain and simple. All right, guys, I got to get out of here before the battery dies. Thanks for coming by and checking it out, and I'll catch in with you next time. Thanks, guys.